You're listening to the On Your Mark podcast, a space for honest conversations with the school system leaders shaping what's possible for early readers. From high-impact tutoring to building trust with families and teens, we dig into what it really takes to make early literacy work for all kids. Welcome to the On Your Mark podcast. I am your host, Mindy Sjoblom, and I'm excited to be joined today by Dr. Theresa Rouse, Superintendent of Joliet Public School District 86, which is in my home state of Illinois. Teresa, I'm so glad that you've made the time to be with us today.
I'm happy to be here. End of school year, but we're doing great.
Well, and that's why we just have to note this for everybody right now. For those who are working and living in schools, this is the busiest time ever, closing out a year past and looking forward to a year ahead. So it means even more that you're finding a slice of time for us to come and talk about your awesome district. But I think it would be really helpful just as a starting place to really dive into, you've had a really exciting career in education and have spent quite a few years over the past bit of time in Joliet. And I wonder if you could kind of just take us to your path. Well, how did you end up in this seat? Where did you start in education? I would love to just get to know you a little bit more in that way.
Sure, absolutely. My journey in education, actually, I wanted to be a teacher ever since I was in first grade. It was one of those things where it's like, I am going to be a teacher. And it's been something that I've pursued and throughout my entire career. And then my journey into administration came from mentors who worked with me when I was a teacher. I've been in education now for 32 years. Classroom teacher, principal, district level administrator, county level administrator. This is my 16th year as a school district superintendent. I spent 22 years in California, but I came here to Joliet to get back to the Midwest. I grew up in Indiana, and I wanted to get closer to home. So this position opened, and it was very attractive to me for a lot of reasons: the demographics, the needs, the music program. We have a thriving music program, band, orchestra, and choir at the junior high levels, and that whole childness that comes from having all those pieces so richly involved. And in California, we'd had to cut all those programs, so it was a great thing to come back to a district that actually valued those pieces enough to where we really intentionally keep them in place. So I came here in 2016 and began my journey, and it's been interesting. The school board told me, they said, we feel stuck. We need to know what do you see? What do you see around us? What do you see in our data? What do you see? And how can you help us get unstuck? We want to get to the next level, but we don't know how to get there. So did a deep dive into all the data, have a great set of leaders around me. This district is amazingly blessed with solid leadership at all levels. It's incredible, the depth of experiences that we have on the leadership team. But we dug into the data and really looked at what are the issues. And the main issue came down to realities around equity and notion of cultural proficiency, and the idea of how are we actually meeting the needs of every individual student and not just doing the pray and spray kind of approach to education, where you just go for it, and if it sticks, awesome. So we began an equity journey. And, the end of my first year, I went over the data with the board in an open board meeting, and I said, the realities are we need to start focusing. We need to look inside and see who we are, to then look at our organization and to see where we need to make adjustments and shift. So we began a journey of internal investigation around cultural proficiency, and that then grew into our organizational focus on cultural proficiency and grew our equity journey over time. It's been an incredible process as we really take that time to look at each individual student versus looking at them in groups, looking at them in pods, or looking at them in grade levels. It's really the intentional side of those pieces. We also have a huge poverty issue in Joliet. So we're a high poverty district. We like 92% economically disadvantaged students. And we're 65% Hispanic, Latino, 24% African American, and the rest white or other. And so we have language issues, language needs, we have poverty needs, and we all know that poverty cuts across every piece of the pie. And impacts the entire district, not just one group. It really impacts everybody. So, coming here It was interesting. I being somebody coming new to Joliet, that people told me, it's the biggest small town you'll ever know, and, people would greet me and they're like, "Well, you're coming from California." And I said, "Well, but I grew up in the Midwest, so this is," I grew up in Indiana, I wanted to get closer to home, and that tore down some walls a little quicker because they accepted me as a Midwesterner. But we had to get past the perception in the community that Joliet was, "Oh, you're in District 86." And we're now to the other side of that to where people wanna know what's happening in Joliet. You guys, you're seeing good growth, you're seeing things move, and we're not perfect by any means. We have a long way to go, but we have made some steady, consistent growth that has been, sustained over time. And that's the thing, you can't make huge jumps and expect to sustain the growth, and so we've had steady increases. I'm really proud of what the teaching staff, the administrative staff, everybody has done working together. This is my 10th year in the district, and it's exciting to be able to look back and see where we've come.
I'd love to peel back just that larger question around equity and cultural proficiency that you really dove into, starting with your board. What does
Yes.
that mean as a district to really do that kind of, self exploration to better understand what that means for you and then for the kids that you serve?
Well, we brought in a consultant to help us with that because I didn't want to be the voice crying in the wilderness. I wanted somebody to come in so that we were all learning together and on the journey together. We began with a book that's entitled Cultural Proficiency, The Journey Begins Within. Because it's all about looking inside, and it's like in a sense, a workbook to take you through different scenarios, and when was the first time you experienced this or that, and how did you feel, and how did it make you feel, and it really digs into who you are as a person. And, it's interesting because when we first started the journey, some board members were a little skeptical, some were all in, and they all took the book, and all of leadership had the book. And we all did our personal journey through the book, and then came together for, conversations. We had board workshops around, the notion of the equity journey, the cultural proficiency journey, to see kind of what people would be willing to share, because it's becomes a very, personal driven piece when you're looking inside first. Some people wanted us just to look at what's happening in the organization. I said, "Well, we can't change the organization if we don't look inside first." So that personal journey, I had some of my administrative team when we first started, our journey. I gave out the book, talked about where we were headed, and, one of my administrators came to me and he said, "Oh, this is great, Dr. Rouse, because they need this." And he was an African American administrator. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right, they do." And so about a month later, after he started digging into the book, he came back to me and he said, "I need to apologize." And I'm like, "For what?" He said, "I need it too." He said, "I am uncovering biases that I have that I wasn't even really paying attention to." And that's the whole notion of that internal
Yeah.
work before we do the organization, because we have to know what's inside of us. I have to address white privilege. I have to address those aspects of my life. I have to address all those pieces to be able to truly lead in a way that is inclusive and provides that open forum for all. I did 2 years of teaching in, Palestine back in the '90s,
Wow.
and that time really opened up my eyes to the notion of I needed to think differently about everything I did in education. It was quite a kind of a revolution in my life as far as what how it changed me, and really helped me to look at everyone around me in different ways because uh, you when the shackles come off your eyes and you can actually see, and you've experienced that oppression in a different way, it really does change who you are.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And what was your role over in Palestine?
I was a classroom teacher.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds
Yeah.
like it was an incredibly formative experience for you.
It was an American school for Palestinian children that
Mhm.
had been set up by the Assemblies of God Church. It was a missions placement for 2
Yep.
years. It was incredible,
Mhm.
absolutely incredible, very, very transformative for me and my thinking and my career and my trajectory.
And I wonder, one of the things that strikes me right now is that I'm sure that it took a ton of bravery on your part to come into a new district. to lead from a mindset position, especially as an outsider
Right.
in pretty short into your tenure and saying like, "Hey, we're going to stop and we're actually going to do something that is probably really foreign for a lot of the folks who are in these groups together." I'd love to hear like where did you get support in those spaces? How did you stick with that goal and where did you see resistance? And how did you eventually win those folks over to move in this direction with you?
It was interesting to watch where the support and where the resistance came. The school board, for the most part, were all in and heavily supportive. The African American community in Joliet jumped on board and were thrilled to death that somebody was going to take a look at this and really dig into the information because what they'd experienced in this district was higher levels of referrals and suspensions for African American students overall and lower achievement. And there's just the whole mindset around what what was felt that they could do or couldn't do was interesting. There was a remedial mindset versus an asset driven mindset, and we had to really start shifting some of that. Um, there was pushback amongst some of the white population in town. We don't need this. This is not, this is not. You're saying that everything's our fault. I'm not saying anything's anybody's fault. I'm saying we need to look at what we all carry and so that we can see how we can support each other. And, so it was kind of interesting to see that happen. I had, some Hispanic members on the team who'd been here for 10 plus years, on the administrative team and, come to me. This one person, she came in and she said, "I have a really bizarre question to ask." And I said, "Okay." And the 2 previous superintendents had both been African American. And she said, "Why did it take," and she kinda looked at me and was struggling with what to say. And I said, "I think I know what your question is." And she said, "Okay." And I said, "You're asking me why did it take this white woman coming from California for us to have these hard conversations?" And she said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I'm not gonna judge the past. I'm gonna say we're gonna change the future. We're gonna look at this differently, and we're gonna impact the future in a different way because we're gonna look at things through clean eyes." And I said, I don't judge anybody. I'm just here to help us be better. So we're building better every day in what we do. And, I was thinking it'd take us about a year with the leadership team to kind of move past some of the barriers and the biases in life. It took us 2 years
Yeah.
because we really needed, before they could lead it at their building, I needed to know they were really ready. And it took 2 years before we were ready to actually put that framework in place for what the principals needed to lead at their school buildings. And that meant there was some transitions too. There were some folks who left, and that's okay. And as we hire people, there's an equity lens that comes into how we look at and how we interview folks and scenarios that we ask them that will bring up those pieces where kind of some red flags or not, as we talk to folks. Um, it's been an interesting journey. My cabinet, they're amazing, all supportive, all in. They have seen how this has made differences for staff and students and families. I've got parents that come sit and talk to me. I had a man here in the office yesterday who he needed a ticket to his daughter's graduation, and his ex-wife wouldn't give him one of the 3 tickets she had. He just needed a ticket. He wanted to see his daughter graduate from 8th grade. And, I said, "You know what? Have a seat, let me make a phone call," and called and got him. He sat here and sobbed when I got him a ticket. And I'm like, it can't be that hard. We have to work together to continue to make things better, and just being open to those conversations. I take parent phone calls, people come in, they see me, we try to resolve things. It's just we have to have that openness. And when you think about the adults in our world, when you think about K-12 education, people wonder why parents have certain attitudes towards school, and I keep reminding folks it's because of how they experienced school as a child, and some people were traumatized.
Yeah.
Have to help them know that it's okay to be here, and it's okay to come and be upset and share your story and get it off your chest, so now we can get to some resolution and solutions moving forward. There's been great openness, receptiveness to the mindset shifts that we've been trying to make. We're not there yet. We got a ways to go. This has been an interesting year of adult decision making that has been kind of special and fun, but it's the nature of the beast. Because doesn't matter how tall you are or how old you are, human behavior is human behavior.
Yeah.
And, kindergartners, preschoolers, all the way through to older folks sometimes have some similar behaviors.
Yeah.
And, we have to constantly be ready to readjust and change and address the things that we need to address.
And that's what we do on the front lines at schools in schools all the time, right? But
Absolutely. Well, and, you mentioned the fear of coming to a new place. My last district in California, I had 4 schools. I had, about 2,600 students total, and, our leadership team was about there were about 15 of us. We sat around a table. I came here, um, and when I came 10 years ago, we had close to 12,000 students,
yeah.
21 buildings, and a leadership team of 100.
Oh, that's a early to start with.
And in front of that group, it's like I came July 1st. The end of July was our leadership academy to launch the year, and I needed to have a message ready to share with these folks as they're all sitting in this room staring at me like, "So what are you gonna tell us to do?" And it's like, "Okay, here we go." You know? Um, it's been an interesting journey.
It took 2 years to get everybody on the same page and
2
moving in.
years, yeah. Yeah.
That's but you stuck with it, right? And I'd love to hear a little bit more about what's been the results of that work,
Oh,
when we look
yeah.
at kids, and also the teachers that serve those kids. So let's dive into that a little bit more.
Sure, sure. Yeah, we have seen some really good closing of the gap of the achievement gap between the different student groups. We also are seeing really good changes in our discipline data as far as there not being such a disparity of the numbers of students who are African American who are, those numbers are still higher than I'd like for them to be, but they have come way down from where they were. The overall attitude and, acceptance of people, I think has been interesting to watch. Our students and providing student voice. We have a student advisory, junior high student advisory that comes here to the district office and meets with me and my cabinet members.
Yeah.
And, they get to help format and formulate and share, what's working, what's not working, what's something that we can do to help make things better. And, they're just it's just a fabulous thing to give them that voice. Then when I show up at a school, they're just like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey." I'm a musician myself, and so the music program here drew me in. I bought a violin, I've played with the students in orchestra, I've played piano for them, I've sung in the choirs. It's just that kind of a connection, I think, is what helps make the difference. And I've seen attitudes of adults shifting over time. There are a lot of folks who are extremely happy that that we began this journey the 10 years ago and that we're continuing on it. There's some who still resist, and that's okay. We in every institution that goes through change, there are laggards, and they either come along or they go along, and so we've seen some things shift, some personnel shifts happen, and that's okay and I wish people well. Again, I don't judge. It's all good. Someplace else might be a better fit for you, and that's okay. Um, you know, the as we began the equity journey, there was a Facebook post, some dialogue between some of our leaders that, some community members saw, and they reported it back to me, and they said, "We just want you to know that." And I said, "Don't tell me who posted it." And they said, "No, no, we don't wanna do that, but we just want you to know that they posted something about having to drink your Kool-Aid." This is interesting. So we had a leadership team meeting coming up. I resisted the urge to bring Kool-Aid. I did not. I did not take Kool-Aid. But we did go back and revisit the why of the equity journey and
Yeah.
really look and dug into the data again. I said, "This has nothing to do with me personally. This has to do with what we need to do, what's best for children and what's best for our families and our community." And I told them, I said, I mentioned about the community member who had reached out and told me about, that some folks in the room had posted online, and I knew they were in the room, and
Yep.
I saw some faces go white.
She did.
And I asked them not to tell me who, but, if that truly is how you feel, I said, "I want you to get out your resume, and I'll write you the best letter ever to help you move on to another place, because we're on a journey, and either you're on the journey with us or you're not." And, we had some retirements, we had some people move on after the next year, and it's okay, because this work is not for the faint of heart.
There's something just really freeing about defining values in that way. because it's making really clear to everybody else around where you're going. And and you empower them to make decisions accordingly, but to be able to say, "No, this is what I value, and
Yep.
this is where we're heading. Um, this is the direction the bus is heading in, you can get on it, or we're gonna," and that's not.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, in our strategic plan that's on our website, our the first main goal is all about equity and, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's really it really sets the stage that that's who we are. And I've had actually, people come and interview with us for administrative positions. There's a "Because I read your strategic plan,
Yeah.
because I've been watching what you've been doing." And I'm like, "Yay, come join us."
Oh, great. I mean, you did I took a look at it when I was getting ready to for our call today, and, it is very clearly your number 1 priority.
Number
Uh,
1. Yep.
and that speaks just volumes, for the work for kids. So I love it. And I think, one of the things I'd love to start just talking about a little bit more is what does that practically look like then in a classroom? And on your mark, we do virtual early literacy tutoring, and so we work with students who are really struggling, and with many schools who are doing a lot of really really hard work. Teachers are working hard to be able to support those strugglers, and we also know that the needs of students is incredibly vast right now. And I would just love to hear a little bit more about how you've approached literacy with an equity mindset, what that practically looks like in classrooms, and how you're supporting your earliest readers accordingly.
Yeah, the realities of the population that we serve is sometimes gets in the way of what we need to do because there's so much trauma, there's so much poverty, there's just it's and I try to help people understand that there's you can tell me that you love the students, and that's great, but if they're not able to read, do you really love them? So, how are we gonna make certain that our love is actually showing out in helping these students to be more than they are when they came to us at the beginning of the year? So, that growth has to be there if we're truly saying that we love them. And I believe people they sincerely believe they love them, but when they stop and think about it that way, it helps to, again, reframe the conversation.
Yeah.
We really looked at putting in a solid framework of early literacy, resources, options, and approaches for our students. 40 to 50% of our students come in knowing fewer than 5 letters of the alphabet into kindergarten. That's a huge lift for a kindergarten teacher. So we specifically focused in on kindergarten because, people talk about, achievement gaps in high school. I'm talking about an opportunity gap in before school starts in kindergarten. So we put, paraprofessionals in every kindergarten classroom. Now, they were trained in the early literacy program that we use, which is Foundations, and, the principals were all told and the teachers were told, those paraprofessionals are to be working with students. They are not to be filing papers or doing bulletin boards or any of that. They are trained professionals. They're trained in the program. They need to be doing that double dip for those who are struggling. So we really intentionally went deep in kindergarten, and we have continued that on up into the other grade levels. Foundations then is in kindergarten and first grade as part of the core curriculum, but once you hit second, third, and fourth, it becomes part of that tier 2. So as you look at how the program, exceeds where it needs to be, and it can be that reminder and that dip back in if a student is struggling with something. So it becomes that tier 2 curriculum in those upper grades to help with intervention work. Shifting mindsets out of remediation into assets helps too, because I try to remind people they may have only come in with 5 letters of the alphabet, but they came in with 5. Let's build on that. So we have one early childhood center in our as one of our 21 buildings, and it's an at-risk early childhood preschool for all spot. So there's a lot of special education and whatnot there. However, we've shifted some of our work there as well to the notion of the students who leave there should have all their letters, they should have numbers, they should be ready to go into kindergarten and to find success. So we're working through those pieces, but we have a large special education population as well. No excuses, but it is what it is. So the intentional focus with early literacy starting in that kindergarten level, preschool and kindergarten level, really has helped us to see a difference in where we're at when they hit junior high. Now we all had the same road bump in, COVID. We all hit the same road, but we were right on the cusp. Mindy, it was so oh my gosh. I kept telling my junior high teachers, they're coming," 'cause they were after so many years, and you start seeing that improvement. Then we hit the, be remote for an entire school year at home. Our families were scared to come back to school. And
Yeah.
so for one entire school year, we were home online. And we lost some ground, but we have made that ground back up. We are now past where we were, where we've made the ground up, we're moving forward.
That's incredible. I mean, I wanna stop and, like, say that's incredible because it's not consistent with the trends that we're seeing across the country. Like, we have not caught up as a country yet from that, moment of the pandemic, so
Yeah.
kudos
We
for
have
that.
we have caught back up and we're moving ahead. We actually saw with our state testing, stronger, proficiency improvement numbers, over previous years that we haven't seen before. We actually transitioned twice as many students out of, Spanish into English, in our bilingual program from this past school year. So we are making some much more substantial growth as we go forward. And it's because of the systems we have in place. And I credit my curriculum department. Oh my gosh, my assistant superintendent of curriculum, Dr. Anke Bradley, she is incredible. She leads an amazing piece. She's a systems girl. She's got it in play. Everything has a rhyme and a reason. When I came, we had random arrows everywhere. There were schools doing different curriculum. And I'm like, who are we? We're one district. What is happening? So we brought everything into the road. And I said, here's the road that we're on. There are choices on this road, but the choices over here are not on the road. So you can't choose them. You have to choose within the road. And we have sometimes the teachers are like, well, you have too many things. We can't, it's too many resources. And I'm like, no, no, no. Don't think of it that way. Think of it, this is your menu.
Yeah.
Now choose because this student or this group of students is going to need this piece, but this group's going to need another piece. So don't force them all through the whole thing and don't do everything because you can't. Pick and choose, and this is where equity comes into play because if a student's needs aren't being met by the core curriculum or by a supplemental, there's gotta be another one. So we have to have choices to be able to meet those needs of every single student. We have a myriad of online resources that can be accessed at home. We've actually found that some of our parents are accessing some of those for their own literacy needs, and it's just been fabulous, because we have things in Spanish and English. We have a growing French population in Joliet, and so, you just keep expanding all the different language choices. We have a total of, I believe, 34 languages that we serve. Some are very small numbers, but our largest are English, Spanish, and French. So it's such an interesting world.
Yeah, I mean, we hear from a lot of the schools that they work with, what they right now are desiring the most additional support for is for those emergent bilingual and multilingual learners. And
Yes.
you've described having just like a really diverse population of folks who fit into those categories. What are the things when you think about the road and the choices for your English language learners, like what have you been doing there that really has been working for those kiddos?
Well, again, the online options all help because
Yeah.
they can tap into different things. We use things, we're part of the Renaissance platform, so we use STAR for assessments and all those sort of things. So Freckle, is a great online tool that helps with aspects of literacy and math and, numeracy and all those different pieces. We use, let's see, what else do we use? We have online libraries like crazy. There's all kinds of different online libraries so that students can access books if they don't have books at home. And some of those books include like in a sense comics, but books that are there's high interest, not just the standard dusty book that you have. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
I know.
there's actually things that they're gonna wanna read. There's newspapers, there's magazines, there's all kinds of different things in multiple languages, so they can be accessed. And again, the parents are actually tapping into some of those too. Um, Other aspects of what's on that road, the core curriculum is really pretty strong. When I first came, there wasn't an actual, basal or curriculum at the English language arts level. There was a framework following the standards, and there were, novels and things of that nature. We have shifted now to a program called Wit and Wisdom. Yep, so we use Wit and Wisdom, and it's interesting because, I'm a big believer in pilots. And so we bring teachers in, they look at different curriculum and they decide what they want to pilot, and then we pilot. And so, and then we get their feedback before we make any curriculum decisions, because I'm not sitting in the classroom. They need to be part of that decision. And wit and wisdom can be tough, but I again, if you love them, they're going to be able to do these things because our expectation level is up. And if we keep our expectation levels high, they will meet them. Keep it down here, they're gonna meet them there, but they could meet them here. So, that stretch. Lots of writing in Wit and Wisdom, lots of really great literature, and it's been a good program for us. So that as far as, reading language arts, that's been our main focal point. Foundations is that great piece along the side that really, again, helps build those foundational pieces. But when you look at student populations these days and even adults in our world, ever since COVID, and I hate to keep mentioning that word, but it was a pivotal time and really shifted how we need to look at reaching our populations. And we all know if we're not meeting the primal needs, we're not ever going to get to the academic needs. And so we've brought in different SEL supports and work in classrooms. We spend the first week to 2 weeks of every school year since COVID doing only SEL, no academics, just SEL. Get to know your students, set your rules, work together, use the SEL curriculum. We use Character Strong at the junior high level, and oh, the name just went out of my head. I'll think of it. Second Step, that's what it is for the elementary. But then we add supplements even to that program. So one of them I'm gonna share with you here, is involves this little guy. This is Bouncy. He's a service animal. You see he has one paw that's gone. He's got 2 different colored eyes. And this is just the plushie version of him. There's a larger animatronic version of him that actually when you turn him on, he breathes. And when a student is dysregulated, they hold Bouncy and he breathes and you can feel him breathing, and each paw has a different story that he'll tell about breathing or sing a song about breathing in English or Spanish, and they're adding French. But Bouncy is I use Bouncy as a talking stick in our leadership meetings because I need all of my leaders to be vulnerable enough to share what's happening because we need SEL just as much as the kiddos do.
Yeah, we do.
So Bouncy I depend on Bouncy a lot. I actually have taken him to school board meetings sometimes and set him beside me because the board members need to know I need a service animal because y'all crazy. Uh,
This is a hard job.
Tough job, but we have to find ways to support. But things like this is they're a company called Ripple Effects, and they have amazing, amazing pieces and amazing support with Bouncy. All of our let's see, kindergarten and 1st grade, are gonna have the full animatronic Bouncy,
That's great.
and, the teachers are going through training, and the social workers are going through training, and that's another thing, we have social workers in every classroom, every building, multiple social workers in our larger buildings, because we have to if we can't meet those needs, we're not gonna meet the academic needs, and that's why, too, music and art is so important.
I was gonna say, I was like, "Teresa, we haven't had a chance yet to talk about music and art,"
Yeah.
like, you do a really nice job of making sure that you are meeting kids where they are so that you can take them somewhere else. What about music and art? How does that fit in
Well,
Joliet?
that's that whole child piece, because you can't just teach one side of the brain, you've gotta teach all of it. So, when I first came, we had music instrumental music started at 4th grade, and, they had art that started at 3rd grade, but there was nothing for primary, and I'm like, "Oh my god, primary needs this stuff." So, we added art and music teachers, across the district, and we have grown that program over time. The
Yeah.
bless the hearts of the ones who came first because they were going to, like, 5 or 6 buildings doing art and music. They were traveling, they were all in, they were ready, they were on the mission because they knew we were gonna grow it. Now they're at either 1 or 2 buildings. So, depending on the size of the buildings, but we have now art and music from kindergarten all the way through. Our instrumental music starts at 5th grade, and then at the junior highs, we have orchestra, band, and choir. And those pieces the music is huge, and as a musician, I know what music does for me. I can go home after a bad day, sit down at my piano, and start playing, and within 30 minutes, I feel better. There's a therapy side to it. I bought a violin, I've played in the orchestras with my students. Absolutely love the notion of being able to play music with the kiddos here in the district. But the visual art side is also important. Now I can't draw worth a doggone, but We have some amazing art teachers. We have an art show every May. Every school gets to have one artist that's represented in a note card collection that we make every year, and those note card I mean, it is a fabulous process. We recognize them at the board meetings. These kiddos and there are even at our early childhood center, one child is chosen, and their art is on a note card, and on the back, it has their name, their school name, and the district name. And every year, I get a set of note cards. In early summer, I write them a note inside their note card and mail it to their home.
How special is that?
It's something it's so fun, and these note cards are amazing. We sell them to the community. People come I've had former board members show up at our art show just to buy some more note cards because they wanna have the note cards, to send out because it's so cool to have student art to do
Yeah, it
that
is.
way. But that full rounded piece, we get the SEL, we get the art, we get the music, we get the academics. When you've got kids walking down a hallway and they're humming a song or they're singing a song or they're skipping to some music, it changes the feeling at the school. It changes everything about what's there, and that more positive climate always does us good.
For everybody.
Yep, for everybody.
Praying is a lot easier when we enjoy the place that we get to do it in together.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's
We have to be
incredible.
if we're not happy where we are, what are we doing, That's, there's I things of affirmation have to be around us at all times, you have to find ways to remind yourself of these things, like this thing that I have. I am strong, I am loved, I am worthy, I am enough.
Yeah.
I keep this on my desk because there are times I need to be reminded of those things. And if I need that, so does everybody around me, you know? Um, and I'm just a different kind of person, different kind of leader, I think. I'm not a traditional superintendent, and I like that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's been a huge benefit to the kiddos, that you've been, trusted with, because that's what families do when they send their kids to school every day. They
Well,
trust
I
they're
tell
gonna
them they're my babies.
That's right.
I'll have a parent come in and they're upset about I'm like, I am with you because they're I feel like they're my babies too, and I care for them in that way, and I want them to be as successful as possible.
You've announced that you're retiring from this position a year from now. So, just as we wrap up our talk now, I'm sure you have lots of things on your to-do list in this next year, but what's rising to the top? What do you really wanna get out of this next year in Joliet?
We're in the middle of some major building projects, and, in August, we're cutting ribbons on 2 new junior highs, replacements of 2 of our old junior highs. It's been an incredible journey. We passed a referendum back in 2023, and, we've built these amazing, incredible state-of-the-art junior highs, one on the east side of town, one on the west side. We'll knock down the old ones this next year, get that all done. We ribbon cut and go in the new buildings, and we gotta knock down the old ones. We've got another building project that we're starting, next Tuesday on the last day of school. The kiddos at one of my elementaries get to come out and help with groundbreaking, for a gymnasium and 4 additional classrooms on their school. The
Wow.
district's been talking about doing an addition there for over 20 years. We're
Wow.
doing it, and it's gonna be done by the end of next year. So those facility pieces are huge. The continued drive and work toward the notion of trying to embed and entrench the equity work and the focus on literacy and making certain that everybody's whole.
Yeah.
I wanna keep cementing that in. The school board's gonna be in their search for the new superintendent. They've started working with a search consultant firm, and so they're gonna be going through that, and so I'm sending my positive vibes their way that
Wow.
I'm hoping they find somebody that I can pass the torch to,
That's right.
I don't wanna just drop the mic, I wanna pass the torch,
Yeah.
because I feel like that's what we need to do as superintendents. I've already started in my head writing the letter that I wanna leave in my desk for the next superintendent. So, just wanna be able to I know I'm gonna walk away from here and I'll be sad, but I'm happy at what all we've been able to accomplish.
Yeah.
Coming here from California after being out there for 22 years, when I got here and I started doing the work, I was like, you know, it felt like I'm in the job. It's like everything I'd done before was like the dress rehearsal for what I'm doing now. And that has felt so amazing over the years. And, when you know you're in the right place,
Yeah.
you're in the right place. And you can get so much more accomplished. And just yeah. So those are the things I'm focused on. And, and after I finish here, June 30th of 27, the next chapter begins and we'll see where it takes me.
That sounds incredible.
Had a couple junior high kids tell me last week when they were here for advisory, they're like, "You can't retire. You're in your 40s." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, no, no.
Cute.
Good genes. What can I say? I'm much older, but that's okay." They had told them my age and they were like, "No way." Like, "Thank you. Thank you. We'll take it."
Well,
So
I mean, getting these capital projects completed sounds like an awesome way to round out your tenure. I mean, because I know how much it takes to build the political will and trust of the community to pass a referendum, to be able to fund something so substantial, and the incredible power in putting children in spaces that make them feel good. That
absolutely.
show my community cares about me because I see it every day when I walk in this building, and that is gonna be such an incredible legacy to leave at the end.
I'm so excited. Yeah. It's great.
I can't
And
I'm lucky that I live close enough to you, I'm gonna be able to follow along
there you
because
go. There you go. Well, and it's my 32-year career. This is the first time I've been able to build a building.
that's
And,
great.
it's been amazing. It's an incredible process, and to be able to leave that with the students and the staff and them
Yeah,
have these amazing state-of-the-art facilities, I'm super excited.
that's great. Well, Teresa, I just am so grateful for your time again during such a busy time of the year. Thank you for coming and sharing your story with me today.
Absolutely.
And I am really going to take away this idea of torch passing. That when it's time to move on from one space to another, that there is, great value in creating momentum and
Yep,
passing things along in a really great spot for somebody else to carry that on. S
absolutely. I'm always reminding the women leaders around me that we need to straighten each other's crowns, don't knock them off.
yeah,
Straighten the crown and help that next person move forward. Pay it forward, always paying it forward.
I love that. I love that indeed. All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope you finish up these last couple of weeks school with a bang, and then hopefully get a little bit of a rest at some point.
That's the plan, that's the plan. Thanks so much, Mindy.
Thanks for joining us on the On Your Mark podcast. If today's conversation sparked a question, idea, or story of your own, we want to hear it. Connect with us on LinkedIn or YouTube, or visit onyourmarkeducation.org to discover how we're accelerating early literacy through powerful school partnerships and evidence-based intervention.